Hello.
Hey, hon, how's it going?
Really good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. Yeah, we had a bonfire night kind of over the weekend, so it's just kind of keeping dogs calm as always. How about you?
Always. Yeah, much of the same. So yeah, really looking forward to recording today's podcast. We've got a lovely special guest in with us today. We will be chatting with Elle, who is known as the Ecommerce Assistant. So Elle teaches small business owners how to sell online and create thriving online shops using Shopify and Klaviyo. Hi, Elle.
Hi, guys. How are you both?
Really good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay, yeah. A bit tired from all the fireworks, I think. keeping the children happy and not too scared of them. It's quite
okay. Yeah. Do they enjoy it, though?
The big one, yes. The little one, no. She's at that age where she's nearly 2 and it's a bit overwhelming for them, I think.
Much.
Yeah, and then they get really into it as they get a little bit older.
Yeah, that's sweet though. I do feel for the little ones when you see them kind of, you know, everyone else is having fun and you can see them like, is this okay?
It's a bit like the pets, I think, the little ones. It's like, you know, my littlest was sort of shaking and she's never like a little dog. And I was like, okay, you know, it's not, I mean, they are a bit strange when you think about it.
They are kind of explosions for entertainment. It is a bit odd.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, amazing. Well, do you want to sort of give us a quick intro into you and your business and how it all came about and what you do?
Yes, I think you did a lovely quick intro. That's my one-liner and I love it that you did use that. So yes, I'm Elle. I founded the Ecommerce Assistant to help founders of online shops basically to understand the sort of foundations of e-commerce more. So I saw that there was lots of help for really specific things like Facebook ads or Instagram marketing, SEO, like all different sort of specific areas of like selling online or an online business. But I couldn't see that there was much help for like people just to understand like the fundamentals of the website, what you need to do, kind of like the basics really, which obviously we all know are so important to then doing those other bits that are obviously important as well. So my background's always been in e-commerce and always with small businesses. I've never done the big corporate thing. It's always been with working within small businesses in my sort of employed life. And then I thought, well, I can help lots of people who are, you know, they're usually founders on their own. You don't often have someone else to sort of talk to or learn from. So the idea was to help as many people as possible. And I wanted to start online learning. That was always the goal, but it's taken me quite a long time to sort of get there because I think I didn't realize how tough it can be to put out sort of digital products and courses. And it's such a lot of work. And obviously it never actually stops. It's not passive income. It is totally active, you know, keeping things up to date. So I've just been, it's been about 3 years now. And so I've done a mixture of sort of one-to-one, which I absolutely love. And now starting to launch more of those sort of digital products just to help more people get that sort of entry level knowledge really to build upon.
Oh, I love that. And we totally hear you. I think Louise and I've had exactly the same experience moving from strictly one-to-one to a kind of blended service and digital products model. All that talk online about passive income, that is not the case. It is very
a lot harder than we probably either of us were expecting. It was like, oh, well, we're great at services, so we'll kind of make a product, put it out there because we think it's really good, and people will just magically come to it. And obviously, and unfortunately, it just isn't the case. So there's a hell of a lot of work that kind of goes behind the scenes. So I'm so glad that you brought that up.
And I think for me, this is kind of going off track, but the one-to-one is almost easier to sell and get clients for. And I think that's a total myth for me in terms of like what I do as a service provider. I kind of thought, oh, well, selling a product will be easier. But at the moment, I think it is so much harder.
Yeah. And it's just that time thing, like you say, there's that initial, it takes time to grow. And I think that we'll dig into this in a little bit more detail as we go through, because we're actually going to be chatting about busting some of those really common e-commerce myths that maybe hold small business owners back or stop them getting started on stuff because their expectations aren't, just like ours were, aren't quite aligned with the reality of it. So before we get stuck in to all of that, we like to sort of get a bit warmed up, make it a bit more fun by just throwing in some quick fire questions to you, and then we'll get stuck into the meat of it.
Cool.
Sounds good. So number one, tell us, What tool could you not be without in your business?
I did an Instagram post on this a while ago, because I had 4, but if I had to pick one, obviously I'm not going to pick Shopify and Klaviyo because that would be cheating. So I'm going to pick something else. Well, I'm not the best list writer. So I know we all get told to like write things down, plan out content, plan out this, plan out that. And I'm not great with that. I'm very much in my own head. But obviously that has its pitfalls massively when you forget to do things. So this year I have started using Trello again. Obviously there's lots of different sort of project management or list sort of tools to use, and I'd used Trello years and years ago. I actually used it to plan my wedding, to do like seating plan things.
Nice,
And then had just sort of not used it for ages, and then I started to use it again for planning client work, like who am I working with when, sharing boards with clients as a project management tool, trying to drop my ideas in there rather than on my phone, because obviously then it's sort of in a more manageable place. Although it's only me, it's still obviously good practice to not have it. I WhatsApp myself, and it's just a terrible habit I've got because WhatsApp is just so long and I can't find anything. So I am not using it, I know, to my best, but at the minute I'm trying really hard to use it. So without that, I think I would be definitely totally lost at the minute with clients, and with my sort of being my own client. I really do need to use that.
I love that. I love that you WhatsApp yourself. I think that's great.
It does work. It works to some extent. It's just, I know if I could just drop it into Trello rather than WhatsApp, because I then have to transfer it almost from WhatsApp to Trello, and it's just like you get into these bad habits sometimes. And it's
you give yourself so much admin. I find myself doing jobs like that all the time. I take my handwritten list and then put it into my ClickUp, and then from ClickUp I start, and it's like, why am I doing this?
It's like, whatever, I don't know, sometimes I think we can fall into those traps of like, oh, I must do something this way. Like I keep thinking I should write a list, because I've seen online everyone says write a list, and write that long list and make it into a smaller list, and I just am not a list writer. So it's like, actually, if the Trello thing works and the kind of WhatsApping myself does work, that's okay, right?
Love that. Do what works for you. Amazing. All right, second quickfire question. What motivating lesson have you learned since you've started your business?
I think that comes back to what we've just touched on, actually. And I think it's that you might have this idea of like, this is how things are going to go. And this applies to like the clients I work with as well, with online shops. So, you might think this is the product that's going to sell best, and this is how I'm going to launch this and then do this. And I think with like I've learned you've just got to try things out, put things out there, and be okay with something not selling, or something not going the way you planned, or the thing you thought was going to set the world alight doesn't set the world alight, but then it leads to something else usually, doesn't it? It's like, actually that thing didn't work, but that seed from it, then plant that and it becomes something much, much better. So I think I've learned that it's that like agility, I suppose, that you've got to be prepared to try things and put yourself and things out there, but also be ready to kind of go, do you know what, that one just totally bombed.
I totally agree with that. I think that's just all part of the entrepreneur business owner experience, isn't it? You realize the reason that people do well is because so many things didn't necessarily go the way they planned. So being resilient enough to just go, okay, not that time, but the next one.
And just move on to the next thing. And I guess it's that like imposter syndrome, and things creep in, and then you start to doubt yourself. But actually it's like, you've got to kind of have all those failures. And they're not even failures. That's such a big word. It's not. It's just an idea that you think is great doesn't always land with your ideal client. Whether that's a online shop owner and their customer, or us service-based business owners with our clients. And it's just like adapt, like constantly.
That's it. And you learn from it, isn't it? You go, oh, okay, that didn't land quite what I thought. So, I need to take my lessons from it and kind of adapt. But it's a challenge, definitely. But I think if you can frame it in a more fun way, isn't it? Of like, oh, okay, I'm exploring different things. It kind of helps. And I agree. I don't like that word failure, because they use that a lot, don't they? Like, oh, it failed as a product or something. It's a bit harsh.
It's not the right word. It's like, it is just all testing, isn't it? Like when it comes to
Yeah.
so much online where you talk about ads, or even when I talk to clients about email marketing, it's like, well, this is what you should do, or what I think would work, but actually I don't know. You've got to just test, like what's going to land. It's all testing and optimizing. So maybe that's that sort of switch of mindset that's quite positive to have, rather than failures. It's like, well, that was a test and it went badly.
Yes,
This time, I love that.
Wait for next time.
All right, and the final and most important quick fire question: if you could only have one biscuit for the rest of your life, which would you choose? And this is such a biggie for business owners.
This is
it's so important for like day to day,
Absolutely.
time. That one's easy for me, and it's a chocolate malted milk.
Oh, well done. Yeah,
that is a rogue choice, but I love that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, it's so like malted milk's amazing, but like the luxury of the chocolate, like it's so good.
Oh, I love that. That is, you've gone for a classic, but you've just leveled it up in some way, and I really respect that choice. I think that's fantastic.
Love chocolate.
Incredible. Right then, so we've got those fun bits out of the way, so I think now we can dive into busting some of those really common e-commerce myths that come up a lot of the time. So we've touched on this a little bit already, but people think that if they want to sell online, the thing that they have to do is get themselves set up and like set up a website, get themselves online, and everything will just happen. Everything will just start. If you build it, they will come, all of that kind of thing, which unfortunately is just never, ever the case. So what do you say to this myth that once small business owners set up their own website, their products will just sell themselves? They've built it, it will come. Is that true?
Definitely not. I think the thing is that part of the journey, like pre-live, going live, that website build can be such, especially people are DIYing, which I'm all for, obviously, but it's such a big mountain to climb, isn't it? It's so huge to go, I know nothing about whatever platform. Actually, it doesn't need to be Shopify, any platform. I've chosen this platform, I'm going to build a website. That's such a huge thing that I think it's almost getting to that peak that then it's like, well, I've done it, so now things will sell. Maybe we have to convince ourselves of that to make that bit easier. I don't know, like it's okay to think that, I think, but it's maybe just getting a bit of a reality check of like that. A lot of people, and I've put this on Instagram before, like a lot of people have said that the build actually turns out to be the easier bit, and that post build, that optimizing, that continually changing it, and that's selling all the time, like that's the hard bit. And it is literally never ending, because you can't stop selling, you can't stop changing, optimizing, testing, just like we just touched on, right? And it's something we just have to like convince ourselves of to get to that next step. And I'm very much pro, do what you need to get to that next step. Don't think about 2-3 years down the line. I mean, that might be against a lot of advice, you do see on Instagram and in online business, but I do think we have to make it simple for ourselves sometimes, and just tick off those things. Like, what do I absolutely need to do to launch? But then like, you can't stop at that point, can you? Like, you have to have a post-launch plan. And I actually see a lot of the time that people don't have that, and that's when things get really scary, because if you've not got a plan, it all goes a bit it's like tumbleweed. And
totally. I think after the launch of a website, I think it's just very unclear to a lot of business owners what to do next, because I feel like a lot of it's kind of like gatekeeped, like behind closed doors of like SEO, what really is marketing. And I think also because it's difficult, because it's so dependent on your customers, where you market totally depends on where your customers will be kind of generally. So I think the website is the easier part, because it's a clear definition of like, the website's live, they can click buy. Fantastic.
I've done my job.
And now what? Now it's like, and now I have to like research and do stuff. I think it's so fuzzy and unclear.
And maybe that's why there's like this noise you get. I'm picking on Instagram again, but I think it is where a lot of small business owners will start that sort of journey of like, whether it's finding customers or finding help. And I think there is a lot of noise in terms of, where do you then go? Like you've said, what's that next point? Where are your customers? And that's where things, you must be on every channel, you must do every social, you must do not that I'm saying you shouldn't do SEO, but you must do SEO, you must do ads, you must do Pinterest. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so overwhelming, isn't it? That maybe that's then too much, and people just go, nope, can't do any of that, don't understand. So you're right, I think there isn't that like clear path of like, what do you do next, like how do you find customers? And not only how do you find customers, because I don't really help people find customers, I help people when the customers have kind of been found and get onto their website. And that first attempt of a website, especially like I say, if people are DIY, is never going to be the best thing they've ever produced. It's going to get better.
Yes.
So you have to obviously have the plan, the time, the strategy to make it better. And I think, you know, I talk to so many founders that are like, oh, I haven't really updated my website for 3 years or something. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. And then you're like, I get it. I totally understand it, because as we've already discussed, people see it as this like mountain that needs to be climbed. You've launched, you've got to the top. That's it. Job done. And I totally agree with what you said about you don't actually need to know everything 3 years down the line. You kind of focus on the next step rather than the whole staircase, as they say. But I think it's a process. You have to be constantly working on it. And that's why we're such big fans of small business owners when it is their first ever website, doing the DIY route, because it's going to take you a couple of years to figure out what it is that you even need. And if you pay thousands for someone to do it for you that very first time, you're going to pay them to do it not in the best possible way, because you don't even know your business that well yet.
Exactly. And your business is going to grow. Like you might be starting with DIY images. Obviously we all want people to start with professionally shot images, but maybe the budget doesn't stretch, so then that's going to change, and that's going to totally transform the website, or your branding might change, or all these things that change. I think you're totally right. And I think what I see when someone maybe has invested in having their website built is that they then have no clue how to use it. And that has got to be one of the biggest problems, because at least if you have DIY'd, you're going to be learning along the way. Like it's going to be tough, but you're going to learn. You're going to self-learn. You're going to know kind of roughly what you've done to get it there. So you should be able to then progress, maybe with some help from someone like me. But
absolutely.
I see that, a website built for you, handed to you, and then it's never changed. Maybe that's a reason why as well, because there's not been that and I think, you touched on that gatekeeping. I see that a lot. I talk to clients where they tell me that, my web developer wouldn't tell me how to add XYZ. I'm sure you guys get it as well. And I'm like, really? Why are they withholding that information?
Why would you want, as a web designer, Lou, I know that you'll feel this way as well, why would you want those emails 5 times a week? Like, can you change this image for me? Can you update the link? No.
It's we get it quite a lot, that people kind of move over of just saying like, I can't have it so that I can only update my website through email, of me saying on this particular page, and then they've got to schedule them in. It's like it's quite a big hurdle. And especially when, as you said, like the website isn't fixed. I think a lot of people think that, whereas really, I mean, and for SEO reasons as well, it's great that you have to keep going in and changing it. You need to be adapting it for your customers, for feedback, for new stuff. But a lot of people like to think it's quite static, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe that's another myth we can just quickly add on to the list, because I talk a lot about websites. They're not static, they're fluid, they're changing for so many reasons. It's not just design, it's not it's everything. It's like you say, it's what your customers want, it's those tech change. I mean, Shopify, it's just changed beyond belief in the last 3 years. So anyone's website that hasn't been updated for 3+ years, I know that their websites are way behind the times, and they look dated even in 3 years. And I think it does need that continual change, and it's just for so many different reasons. And it's I think it just comes back to that simplifying it and going, what do I need to do weekly, monthly, yearly? Which is hard, isn't it? It's hard to know, and it's hard for us, I think, as well, to tell people what to do, because it will depend on the sort of business model. But there's quite a lot of tasks that if you just sort of scheduled in, I say that like it's so easy, and I know it's not.
No, but I think I really prefer, and this is definitely something we always try and push, thinking about it as a habit as well, of like a weekly, exactly the same with like SEO. Well, I just need to do the SEO. I'm like, what is it? Well, that you will always need to do that, because that will always need to kind of be worked on. The same way with, you don't go, okay, I did the marketing. The marketing for the business is done forever. It's just one of those things, and it's trying to change like your mind frame. So I love the idea of like weekly, monthly upkeep, the same way that you would write a blog, that you would post on Instagram, thinking about your website in a similar way. I think it's really useful, but definitely difficult, especially with like the fuzziness around it, I think.
Yeah. I think the habit thing's a good point though. I think when you start doing something, or maybe if you have this checklist in mind or whatever, that almost keeps you accountable, doesn't it? Like, because I work with mainly solo founders, so like me, they only have themselves to sort of blame, if you like, but also that you've only got yourself to tell yourself what to do, and it's really, that is hard. So but I think that habit building thing, like I started emailing at the start of this year once a week. Well, actually do it more than once a week now, but I had a weekly email, so I'm going to just start it. And honestly, just starting it and doing it, some weeks I'm like, oh, I don't really want to. I mean, that doesn't happen much, but because I've been doing it weekly, I now have to do it weekly.
Yeah.
And I think applying that to an SEO task, updating the homepage, like little things, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is, actually, if you just start that habit, it does kind of stick, doesn't it?
Yeah,
definitely.
I've just got way too many questions actually now we've got you. Do you have something that like a priority, what you would recommend for people to start with, or is that so up to kind of their business model and how they work? Or do you go, this is what I would always recommend people kind of focus on first? If they've built their website, they're ready to kind of, take over the world, what would you kind of recommend?
I have promised my email list I'd make a guide that tells them this, and I haven't done it yet because, as I said, digital products are hard to make. But yes, I think it's those obvious things of like the look and feel. So like the homepage needs updating, and that will be either like weekly if you have a very high sort of in lots of new products and things change a lot. I would be doing it weekly, but it might actually stretch to monthly, because if you could have a slower sort of turnover of stock, I think people will then say to me, well, I don't know what to say, because I get that about emails. And I think it's the same with homepages or announcement banners or whatever, just content, I guess, in general. But I think, again, it depends. If you've got lots of new things coming in, well, that's pretty easy what you're going to put sort of on there. But also it's reminding of bestsellers. It's treating your let's focus on the homepage specifically. It's treating it like a shop, isn't it? How we go into M&S and the thing we see at the front might have been there for 3, 4, 5 weeks, but it's been visually merchandised, the stock's been moved, rotated, and we are then as a customer seeing something new. So I think it's that typical thing of, we know our products or our services so well that we forget that people don't know them so well or haven't seen it. Like, you could have something new on site for a couple of weeks, but actually if I could say to someone, well, have you emailed about it, and have you put it on the homepage, and do you have a collection preview of it, and are you actually talking about it? So I think if you actually just sat and look at your products, whether you have lots of new or you don't, there's always, you're going to have bestsellers for one, so it's maybe rotating them. And I think you can just be clever with like what you pop on the homepage, for example, and how you kind of rearrange that to freshen it up. And I go on Beauty Pie a lot because I love their homepage and I use it as a lot for examples. And I on constantly changing, obviously huge brand, lots of resource, but just to take inspiration from that, like the blocks don't really change if you look at it. So they're not rearranging everything. They are just like changing the founder image, changing the bestsellers, changing the preview collection, changing the lead banner, changing a few words here and there. Like, I think it's just reminding people that you don't have to redesign things. You just need to keep things updated and fresh, especially because I focus a lot on obviously repeat customer when I talk to people about email. So if you're thinking of someone who's been on the site last month and now they're on it again, we don't want them to be bored. We want them to be like, oh, I didn't see that last time. And it's just that sort of, refreshing, I think. Thinking of it as a refresh rather than like a redesign. And that's probably what I think even just that alone would be, if people could do that weekly, whatever, monthly. That would be amazing.
That's it. Going back a bit to the point as well about I guess it's that trial and error, isn't it? Okay, if I have my banner wording be this, okay, that didn't land as well as the previous one. Okay, so what are my customers kind of gelling with? What's the tone of voice that they're liking, isn't it? And it's that thinking about, I'm exploring and I'm learning, and the idea of just refreshing content on the homepage, I think is really great shout. I'll add that to our to-do list, May.
And I think that's
Go on.
Sorry, I think that's why so many small businesses, we've kind of touched on the Instagram thing, will prioritize things like creating 25 reels, making loads of carousel posts, like posting to Instagram multiple times a day, over doing their website, because that feedback is so instant. You get, you don't get 25 likes on your homepage, and you don't know what's working and what people like so quickly. But putting that time in and keeping an eye on that, like, small piece of data over time, the benefit of it is so much larger than what you would receive through Instagram, because a lot of that is just vanity metrics and things that don't really result in sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you can use Instagram though. One of the things I was going to say was, if something's worked really well and resonated on Instagram, like an image, let's say, like whack that on the top of the homepage, like that's obviously working there, then it should work on the website. So it might not, obviously, that's why we come back to testing and things, but actually maybe I think sometimes it's just linking it all together as well, like whether it's something that's landed well on email or Instagram, whatever you're kind of using, and then just making sure you don't forget about the website, because I think that's what happens. It's Instagram is instant gratification. We all love that dopamine hit of likes or whatever. Email, well, I don't know, I think some people like email, some people don't, so you can that's a whole nother conversation, but I think people know they need to do email even if they're not. But the website thing, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, or I don't have time. And I think it's just rearranging the priorities a little bit, just to push it slightly higher up the sort of your to-do list.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Perfect. Because what do you say to small business owners that get started with all this, that think, because obviously we use Instagram, we love social media as a tool. What, so many service providers, and I think this is where it gets sticky, use Instagram and social media predominantly for their sales. You can't really do that as a product-based business owner. What do you say to this myth that, social media is where you sell?
It's really hard, because I think everybody thinks that's where you sell, whatever you sell, whether it's and actually it's not, even service-based business, it's not actually where we sell, because you're probably going to hop on a discovery call, or you've got them on your email list, and then you're going to go through a flow, or a funnel, whatever, it might be where you find people. And I'm very much pro having conversations on there and chatting to people and using it in a social way. But I think even for me, I'm quite aware that it's not where sales happen. I think product-based business owners, so e-com, online shops, I think it's just easy. I do think Instagram's easy. It's accessible. You can literally whack up a picture and write something, and you probably will get some sort of, like you say, like, comment, whatever, a DM. But from every sort of business I've worked on and seen their back end on Shopify and Analytics or Google, there's not sales. It's not like a big sales channel. It might be when you're running ads, but if we're just talking organic at the moment, the website obviously is where the sale happens. So even if they click through to the website, which they're probably not, Instagram does everything it can to keep us on there. It doesn't want us to go. It doesn't really want us to go elsewhere. I know there's ads and things, but so once we get them on the website, if your Instagram is like beautifully designed and your graphics are amazing because you've spent loads of time in it, and then they jump on a website and they're like, this looks naff, this doesn't look anything like the Instagram, and this website looks out of date, and the footer's really bad, all these sort of warning signs. There's no trust, there's no slick, cool, beautifully designed, content filled and good sort of e-com functionality website. They're not going to buy. So even if you've got the best Instagram in the world, whatever that might be, the website is where the sales happen. And even though it can be a contributing factor, like a good Instagram, and I'm not saying anyone shouldn't use it, and I love it too, it's not where like the vast majority of sales are going to come from ever. I think it's using those other things to either get customers, so your customer acquisition, like let's say SEO, and then convert them, which is, for me, it's like website, it's email marketing, it's everything working together. And I think that does come back to that overwhelm of, I must do every social channel and I must do every marketing channel, and you can't. You absolutely can't. If you're a solo founder, you can't. It is prioritizing. So it comes back to, is your website a priority for you?
Definitely.
And it really should be.
It should be. I've got another myth I would like to bust. So do you think then, like, I know that you sometimes hear that you can only get really like organic traffic to your website by placing ads. So whether that's Instagram ads or Facebook or Google ads, do you recommend them, or is that something like, again, business specific? Or
I think it depends. Like, I obviously don't specialize in them, but I know lots of people that do. And I think when you work in any sort of area of online business, you have that awareness of lots of different channels, don't you? So I don't think you need them. Definitely not.
Yeah.
I think, like Instagram, if you're just doing Instagram and expecting lots of sales, that is where you're going to struggle, because Instagram has changed from years ago, and it would be pretty tough just to solely focus on like an organic Instagram. I think it comes back to there being a marketing mix, doesn't it? Like there needs to be multiple strategies, not everything, but there needs to be different ways you are trying to find customers. And I think ads do work. Obviously, I have clients that use ads and they work amazingly well, but they don't work for everyone, and they don't have to be for everyone. And you certainly don't have to launch and then be doing ads straight away. I think actually most ads managers would suggest not doing that, because you know, we need that like organic traffic and organic customer to come and use the site and see like, how does it actually work for someone who's found it sort of organically rather than it through an ad. So I don't think you need them. I mean, ads managers will come at us and say you do, but
of course.
But I don't know. Like I don't think I massively shop from ads, but then I think I get to see so many small business owners from my job. So, but I know like my mum does. She'll see an ad and buys. She's already bought my daughter a Christmas present through an ad. So, you know, I think it comes back to testing though, doesn't it? Because some people, like Google ads will work really well and Facebook ads just won't work for them. It depends on the business and what you sell. So I think it's always going, this is the general consensus, but does this work for me? It's always, I think don't you have to look at everything like that for your business?
Yeah. No, I think that's and I think the point you made as well about not doing it straight away, I think is so key. And I understand why people do, because I think when you, especially if you bought like a Google domain, they then go, here's £200 of like a free advertising. So you go, that's obviously the next step. But again, it's that idea of like, actually, you don't really know your customers at the moment. You know, you don't know the tone of voice they like. You think you know them, but you don't. And it's only through, you know, collecting that data, you know, and kind of assessing it, I think. So I definitely think that idea of wait a good few years, see what fits, see what doesn't, you know, because otherwise it's expensive. It's an expensive lesson to make, isn't it? It kind of all adds up suddenly. Let alone time as well. Expensive with time, definitely, I would say. So thank you. That was all just for me.
Love that. Well, this I think has been so useful. I know that I've been taking some crazy mental notes while we've been listening to you talk, because there's a lot of stuff. And this is the thing that I think it's important for a lot of small business owners to understand. Like, don't feel bad if you haven't got everything perfect. You know, Louise and I are web designers, and there's things that we find with our website every single day that we're like, that could be working better, couldn't it? Like it's a process, and particularly everything just takes time. So anyone who's listening to this and feeling maybe a bit like, oh god, suddenly I've got 15 more jobs on my to-do list, you've got time to sort it and really
prioritizing it as well, I think, because I've got my WhatsApp, as I've referred to. I've just been WhatsApping myself this morning, like, add this to my email flow, add this to my website, update this. It's literally never ending. But I think this is where when you launch, it's quite hard, but as you grow into your business, maybe a year or two down the line, you will start to know what will make the biggest difference. Like doing X is going to make a difference to the bottom line. It's going to make a difference to sales, whereas doing another Instagram post might not. So I think it's just where you know what's going to be that quick win. That's going to make a biggest difference. That is going to help my customer. So I think yes, you might now have a big long list. We all do. It's okay. But actually it's knowing, like, spend 20 minutes updating your homepage. That literally could make a difference to your sales. Whereas something else on your list maybe could just drop down a little bit, and it's okay.
I totally agree with that. And I think this is something that I've really just started putting into place like this year, because somebody said it out loud to me and I was like, oh my god. But like a to-do list genuinely never finished. Like there is no fun in trying to actually just cross everything off your to-do list. You'll never get there. It's a hamster wheel, so you might as well just let it carry over. Just keep going on it, and that will make your life so much easier.
Yeah, Definitely.
So
Awesome.
what can people do to catch up with you a bit more, Elle? How can people find you? What can they download from you? All of that stuff.
Well, hopefully, yeah, all my digital products. Yeah, so Instagram. I'm always on Instagram and happy to have a chat. I probably should be on there less. I've started tracking my time on it, and it's horrible. I'm not even going to say how long, but I'm always on there. And I'm always happy to help. So yeah, Instagram at the Ecommerce Assistant, or head over to my website where I've been, like you say, updating lots, realizing what I can do better on my own website. I've got one-to-one services on there where you can work with me to learn from me. I can do it for you, or now I've got some lovely digital products just to help get things started, and that entry level for people who just want to test the waters.
Amazing.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It has been great. Although I must say, I've actually got a load more questions, so I might have to get you on again, just for me personally.
We'll just have a chat.
Exactly. So, but I've learned a load today, so thank you so much. That's been really helpful, I think.
And thank you so much for chatting with us today. It's been an absolute joy.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.